Good day. This is Lateesha with Soul Spread Wisdom. And today I want to talk about the astrological aspect of Saturn making an opposition to Mars in the natal chart. And one of the charts in particular that I want to look at is from the amazing ex-Navy SEAL and motivational speaker, athlete, David Goggins. And if you don't know who he is, if you do a YouTube search and listen to any of his speeches, you will be blown away. You will be so motivated. He has such a powerful way of speaking that it will switch your mind. If there is any part within you that feels like you want to be a victim or you want to play the blame game or anything, or if you feel, oh, I can't do it, after you listen to David Goggins, you will be so motivated and so inspired to go and accomplish whatever it is that you desire to do. So David Goggins was born February 17th, 1975 in Buffalo, New York. And in one of his interviews or podcast interviews that he did on impact theory, he said that his birth time was 6 a.m. So I used that to draw up a chart because I had to see what is it that this man is made of. And you know, the most significant thing in his chart is that he has a Mars opposing Saturn. And so that aspect right there is really harsh in that we can see that Mars and Saturn, of course, they don't get along. They're two energies that do not jive well together. And when you have Mars Saturn hard aspects, you typically see some form of abuse or violence or, you know, just some type of altercation type energy. And as you listen to his story, you hear that he suffered horrible physical abuse from his father. He saw his mother being physically abused by his father, his brother. They were all physically abused by the father, physically, mentally, verbally, emotionally abused by his father. The first 8 years of his life. So he was set, and he talked about, how he used to be strong, but it was beaten out of him. It was the strength was taken from him because of the abuse that he experienced. He talked about how they lived in horrible poverty after his mom left his dad. They lived in a place where the rent was $7 a month, and then they moved to a place that was, I think, $264 a month. And so all he knew was poverty and pain, and he experienced horrible racism, brutality. And so he was just in a lot of confusion, and he couldn't read. So his chart really explains so much of his life. But the most powerful thing, so he has Saturn in the sign of Cancer in the 6th house, making an almost exact opposition to Mars in Capricorn in the 12th house. So Mars in Capricorn is exalted. So here you have a man who has taken control of his life, and he is a world-class athlete. Mars in Capricorn. As he talked about when he did get his mind together, because with that opposition, it could have gone one of two ways. He could, like it always can, with Saturn opposing Mars, he could have laid and sat in the seat of a victim. He could have. He had every reason to, by the world standard, to sit in a seat of a victim. He was abused. His mother was abused. So, ultimately what he was doing with his life, initially he was, when he finished high school, he went to the Navy, or the Air Force initially. But he said it was too hard. So he wanted to quit. And he did. Ultimately, he quit in his mind. He went back home, gained 106 pounds. He was all the way up to 300 pounds. He said he was sitting on the couch, eating, 8 cinnamon rolls a day and doing nothing. He was working as a pesticide person, spraying for cockroaches in businesses. And I think he said he was making like $9 an hour, and he just was overweight and just completely just let go, and was just eating and sitting on the couch. And he said he was a liar, and his whole character was so low. And he had an awakening. And he had called the military to see if he could get back in. He called the Navy. He said he was sitting on the couch watching TV, and something came on about the Navy SEALs, and he watched it and said, wow, came across his mind, oh, these guys are great. Let me call and see if I can get back in. And they told him, your weight needs to be 185, something to that effect. And he was like, oh, forget that. I can't do it. And so he went back to driving the truck, and he said he went to, as fate would have it, I said the ancestors set it up as such. He went to a place, his ancestors. So he went to a place, and they had rodents and roaches taking over everything. And he said, I'm done with this. He left, drove the Eco Lab truck, which that was the company he worked for, drove it back home, and he decided then, I'm going to do this. I'm going to lose this weight. So at that moment, his will kicked in over and beyond his circumstances. His will, his passion, and his desire kicked in over and beyond even what the chart said, what the past had given him. And so when we talk about, and he lost the weight. So the long and the short of it is that he lost 106 pounds in 3 months through his own dedication, his own willpower, his refusal to quit. He could not read, so he taught himself to read. He had to pass the exam. So he had to take it twice, and he talked about how he had to sit at the table and write word for word everything in the book in order to be able to learn it, to be able to pass the test. He did. He passed the test. He lost the weight, and he got himself in within 3 months against all odds. All of the odds were stacked against him in every single way. And he talks about how his mind, how he realize that the mind itself is so powerful. When you turn your mind, when you take control of your mind and tell your mind what it is that you are going to do, as opposed to your mind dictating to you what you are going to do with your life and your body. And so the more he did that, the more powerful he realized that he was. He realized that he sits in the seat of power with the ability to control his mind and say, no, this is what we are going to do. This is the way we are going. And so when we look at that Mars that is in the 12th house in the sign of Capricorn, again, Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn. So Mars does its best in the sign of Capricorn. But we could look at that and say, oh, that's the reason why he was able to excel. But Mars in the 12th house is challenged. If we look at traditional astrology and what it says about Mars in the 12th, it says, everything that goes into the 12th house is Pisceanized, so it's weakened. And then the 12th house represents the subconscious mind. So if we look at it from that aspect, we would say, okay, over time, this Mars is going to get weaker. This Mars will not be able to exhibit the strength that Mars in Capricorn normally would do on its own if it were in another house, because as it is said, again, the 12th house loses strength over time. And so Mars is how you take action and how you move your life forward and so forth, and how you just how you move, how you initiate. And so what we see with David Goggins is that he used his willpower to override what is traditionally taught and what is thought to be understood as it relates to astrology and the strength of the houses. And so, yes, this is something that has played out typically, but David Goggins, is an example that your willpower can override even the aspects of the chart. So Mars in the 12th house. So for him, he talks about, I've always heard God. So when you have a personal planet like Mars in the 12th house, it will heighten your ability to hear spirit, because the 12th house is a very spiritual house. And with Mars there, he said, I would hear God. I would hear the direction. I knew the right way to go. But oftentimes I just would not do it because I didn't feel that I could. He said, I felt like a piece of shit. I felt worthless. But that when that Mars in Capricorn kicked in, it showed up at its highest height. So he was able to go to the subconscious mind. And this is one of the most powerful things that he talks about, is that he uses suffering. So we're talking about Saturn, the opposition. So we go to Saturn in Cancer, that is opposing this Mars. So that Saturn is in the 6th house, and Saturn likes to be in the 6th house because the 6th house is the house of routine and daily routine and daily structure and how you operate. Now, before he started getting this Saturn together, even before his Saturn return, because the Saturn return does not happen until the age of 27, 28. And he began at the age of 24 to work this Saturn and this Mars opposition through his sheer willpower. And so we have the ruler of the 12th house in the 6th house. So Saturn rules Capricorn. So the ruler of the 12th is in the 6th. So with that, in the sign of Cancer, and we know that Saturn in Cancer can be very emotionally unstable, all over the place with the emotions until later age, until, after the 40s. Then Saturn typically matures and has the ability to stabilize the emotions. But with David Goggins, because he used his willpower, just sheer willpower, to trust that he would be able to overcome and change his life and to deal with his own demons. 12th house, Mars, the demons of the past, the anger. He was so angry. He was so frustrated because of the abuse. And so he knew that he needed to be able to heal those, but he used the 6th house activities of taking care of the body and having a strict regimen, and Saturn in the 6th, using a strict regimen to control his emotions. Saturn in Cancer in the 6th. He used that to be able to stabilize his emotions, to to bring them under control. And as he brought them under control, he was able to heal the subconscious pain, the trauma that happened to him during childhood. And we see, and that's shown through that Mars in Capricorn, of course, making the opposition to Saturn. He was able to use that daily restrictions to his body, to his food, and controlling his mind, 12th house, controlling the subconscious minds and the fears that he had. He said he had a great fear of water, but he used his mind and controlled his mind with a lot of strength and determination so that he would be able to finish as a Navy SEAL. And he went through Hell Week 3 times in a 2-year period of time, which is something that no one else has done on the planet. And so he used this Saturn-Mars opposition to change his life, to bring discipline into his life, and to heal the pains and the traumas of the subconscious mind. And this is how his life is an example of how we can use the harsh things that have happened to us, which we can see in the birth chart. And, the Mars opposition to Saturn and the way it's set up, no one would ever think that a person would be able to take control over their emotions and their life in such a way that he would become a world-class athlete. He would be a world-class serviceman. He was in the Navy SEALs for 21 years and he retired. And then after he retired from that, he went on to win more athletic, challenges and running 100 miles in a 24-hour period and finishing up in 19 hours instead of 24 hours, and so many things that he has done. And he is a testament to how we can, through willpower, overcome the challenges that life has brought to us. And for those of us who love astrology, how we can look at the aspects and see that here are challenges here, but our willpower supersedes even those harsh aspects, even those places that would appear to be places of weaknesses, but they are our solutions. Within those challenging aspects are also the answers to how we can get on top of the aspect, as opposed to being a victim, or this idea that it is deterministic. Astrology, some think that astrology is deterministic. This is what it is. So, you won't be able to accomplish more. But his life serves as an example of that. He was born also with Mercury retrograde in his chart in the sign of Aquarius. And normally when a person has Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, there is a genius there, but his was retrograde. And so with that, he had so many challenges with learning. So he had a terrible learning disability. And but through his willpower and the discipline necessary, and he said, I need to be a more intelligent person. He had a 4th grade reading level his junior year of high school. And so he decided, I need to be a more intelligent person. So he would take the books and write them out word for word, so that he could be a more intelligent person and understand. So there again is this self-discipline and this responsibility, just absolute, complete responsibility for his life. Like there is nobody else's fault. Even though he said that he met with his dad, when he was 24 and he hadn't seen him in many years. And he said he wanted to talk about to see if, he could heal some of the things that had happened. And he said when he got there, he realized that his dad was the same person, very ignorant and silly and crazy thinking. And he said he realized that he said, yeah, his dad gave him all of that. He gave him all of the messed up, the pain, the trauma, all of it. He said, but I'm going to fix it. He said, I'm going to fix this shit, because he curses a lot. He said, I'm going to fix it. And with that, he took responsibility for his own healing. He took responsibility for the pain. He took responsibility to forgive. He took responsibility to transform his life, though it took years and pain and discipline. He did it for himself. And because of that, Saturn has rewarded him, because Saturn brings the reward for hard work. And Saturn rewarded him. And now he, of course, is a millionaire, of course. And he is looked at all over the world as someone that is aspirational, a life that we aspire to have, discipline that we aspire to have. And these are the rewards, again, that come from Saturn. If you take on what Saturn is asking you to do, which is be responsible. And of course, the sign in the house matters. But this man has, he is amazing. It is amazing to me, and it is inspirational to me and motivational. And I'm so glad that I was privileged in this lifetime to be able to hear what he has to say and look at the chart and see how, through willpower, through sheer will, that we are able to override the aspects of the chart and use them to do a 180-degree change in our lives, so that we take control of our lives and the results of our lives, and what it is that we are bringing into the world, and what it is that we are producing in our own lives. And understanding that it is no one else's responsibility. It is no one else's, no one else is responsible for our lives. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter what they did. They did that. They shouldn't have done that. But it is up to us to forgive, release it, and then alter ourselves, our minds, and our actions in such a way that we produce what it is that we want to have in this life. I thank you so much for listening again. I'm Lateesha with Soul Spread Wisdom. Have a good day.